My name is Justin, and this is my video out. About 2002. We moved at an interesting time because it was about when I was hitting puberty. So I would say I probably knew basically that I was gay from about that point. I wouldn't say I necessarily knew what to call it that early. I mean, it took me about 10 years for, I would say, to come out, and that mostly was, for me, it was really an internal thing. It was accepting it for myself that was the struggle. We have always been Christian, gone to church, and just kind of not really being super educated about what being a gay Christian means, but just kind of going off of what everybody thought and misconceptions and things like that is really what I based. I mean, my beliefs on my struggles, it all came kind of from that. I had a hard time accepting, just admitting to myself that I was gay. I'll say about 2008 is when I remember kind of coming to my parents and telling them that I was feeling like depressed. So I've been dealing with that. I still do, but that was right before college. And then college, I kind of kept my head down. You know, I lived at home. I didn't go to school, so there wasn't any kind of like discovering myself or anything during that point. I would say without necessarily calling it that, I almost kind of tried the pray the gay away thing a little bit during college, and when that didn't work, it was after college, after I didn't have that kind of distraction anymore, that I got really, really depressed. And a few months before I came out, I would never say I was actually suicidal. I never truly considered that I would do that, but I came to a point where I realized I couldn't continue living the way that I was. So it was either suicide or something had to change. And since suicide wasn't an option, that was what it took for me to realize something had to change. And I started watching videos, looking online. I really didn't know. It's hard with things like this. This is really great because I did watch videos like this. When you're in a closet like that, and when you're like really in denial personally for yourself, it's not really about anybody else. I mean, you don't seek stuff like this out because you're too in denial. But once I hit that point that I had to make a change, I did start seeking things out and found some resources. And I mean, it took a few months of kind of going through it personally, internally, and then I was finally able to accept it. But what really, it's kind of hard to put into words, but there was just a point, and I think it was right around that time that I realized something had to change. Because on the same token, and this could very well be a misconception too, but my fear of disappointing God being gay, when my only other option was suicide, I realized there's really no winning there. But what I ended up, because I still feel, I'm still a Christian, I just felt kind of this unspoken thing. I've never been really into churches and stuff, because there's so much, there's people, people influence their opinions and things, and but I just had this kind of personal thing between me and God, and he just gave me this calm, like kind of just reassured me when I reached that point that, like, I love you, what you're doing is fine, like you're great, I created you this, all these things, just kind of all in one feeling. So when that all happened, I realized, it's going to be okay. When I did come out, my parents, my whole family, I never received anything negative, so I was very lucky in that sense. I know my parents particularly, for a brief point in time, having to kind of come to terms with it themselves. I had plenty of time, but I just kind of sprung it on them. They, did that a little bit, kind of privately, but were able to kind of reconcile it pretty quickly, and now they're both, especially my mom, very, very vocal advocates. I mean, very good allies, all these things. So I've been very lucky in that sense. I'm just a regular person, living wherever, doing whatever, and I happen to be gay, and it's okay. It all works out. It's really the best to kind of live your truth. Technically, the first person that I told, and it was over text, was my best friend from high school. She moved away to go to college, and I graduated college in 3 years, so most of my friends were still in college that fourth year, that year that I kind of did my self-discovery. So she was still in college, and I was scared to death, and that's what I did. The first people that I told in person were my parents. That was about 10 days later. It was really the weirdest thing, because it was like I wasn't, as far as like anything else in my life, I didn't feel super like strong and like I'm still me. I'm still kind of shy and reserved. Like I didn't just have this overwhelming rush of like courage. But part of me was just like, I have to do this like right now. It was like that was the moment. So it was like, it really was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, and it didn't need to be because of how they received it, but it was really, like I said, it's been an internal struggle, so it was really about me, and it's really hard to say, but I mean, that in that moment and it's weird to say, and you kind of have to experience it to really understand, but like going through that, as hard as it was, immediately I felt a literal weight, like a huge weight off my chest. So I felt like I could breathe for the first time in like, I don't know, my whole life, like my whole adult life. It blows my mind that, I never thought I would even be able to find someone to be happy with, and the fact that, what, 5 years seemed to fly by, and I'd come out, and then I'm getting married. Like, it just, I don't know how to put it into words really, but it means, I'm just really glad that I was able to kind of figure that out and move past it, get through it, and live the life I was meant to live.